This is where Landyn Ferris spent his final moments, an empty room padded with mats at his high school in Trenton. The grade 10 student was found unresponsive in the room on May 14th. The school has described it as a sensory room.
The photograph of that room, that is not a sensory room. We need to be clear about that. But a sensory room would have actual sensory equipment in it. It wouldn't just be mats on the floor and on the wall.
Advocates say the photo obtained by CityNews shows a seclusion or isolation room. It has prompted outrage and questions about why they exist in Ontario schools.
Probably about 8 to 10 years ago, it started to become frowned upon, those rooms. They can be highly traumatic for children. Many schools abolished the use of them.
But CityNews has learned the room at Landyn's high school was brand new and only opened a month before he died.
So these rooms do still exist. And I think that there's a real lack of transparency around how they're being used.
Just how many of these rooms are being used in schools across the province remains unknown. It is information that is not even readily available to the Ministry of Education. We asked for the data almost a week ago, and they have yet to provide it.
We asked the ministry, do they collect data from school boards on the use of these rooms? And the answer was no, they didn't.
Advocates have been calling for the ministry to set and enforce policies on the use of isolation rooms in schools.
It shouldn't be for 72 school boards to each have to invent their own protocols.
We reached out to some of those 72 school boards, and the inconsistencies are clear. In Toronto, we're told there are very few isolation rooms, and instead educators have been equipped with calming strategies or calming spaces within classrooms. In Peel, there are 4 different types of alternative learning environments or spaces. Some are supervised by educators, some are not. In Durham, schools have 1 or more spaces dedicated to individual student use, which may include isolation or sensory rooms and are intended to provide a calming environment. At the very least, advocates say supervision should be mandatory in the rooms. It's alleged Landyn was alone in the room at his school, despite suffering from epileptic seizures.
These are not rooms to just throw a child in and leave. Children should be monitored at all times, especially if you're talking about a child with a seizure disorder.
A coroner's investigation is underway into Landyn's death, and a candlelight vigil will be held for the 16-year-old outside his school Friday at 8 p.m. For City News, I'm Tina Yazdani.